What's up, Sound Contagious family? Thank you for joining me. I hope everybody's doing well. I received an email.
You got mail.
I received an email.
You got mail.
Really? Is this 1990? I received an email.
You got mail.
I received an email and I'm just trying to help out.
You got mail.
Let's go.
You got mail.
All right, guys, so let's get right down to it. Here's the email. Comes from a subscriber. His name is Ron Stone, fellow producer, studio owner. And he writes, "Hi, and thank you for your tutorial on YouTube." He actually has a three-part question. I'm going to answer the first one today, and this will be a three-part series to his questions. And I'm doing this so that if anybody else has the same questions, hopefully I can also help you out. So let me know if you have any comments or questions. How do you have Studio One and the MPC X set up? Is it routed, or do you drag and drop best workflow? So let me just go to that last part about best workflow. Really, Ron, and anybody out there that's listening, so it just depends on how you're trying to move your music into the DAW. Because remember, with MPC X, you can actually create everything. You can sequence everything: intros, outros, verses, choruses. You can create the whole song right in the MPC X, right in the box, or through the software, so it doesn't matter. But if you're trying to dump everything into a DAW like Studio One, let's go through some things that I would suggest, and then you'll have to experiment with the workflow and find out what works best for you. So let's talk about the MPC X standalone, right? You know you have 8 outputs in the back, so you can go directly to your audio interface. If you have 8 output interface, you can go directly 8 out into your interface, and you can record your tracks, whether it be Pro Tools or Studio One. Of course, you'll have to set that up in Studio One or Pro Tools, whatever you're using, to set up the inputs and outputs. But you can go straight from the MPC X. You can go straight from the MPC X into your audio interface, and it doesn't matter. You don't have to have 8 outputs. You can have 4 outputs, 6 outputs, 2 outputs, 1 output, whatever. You can still do this, and then you can arm your track in your software. Hit play in your MPC X, and you can record that way. Actually, that was actually what I did when I had the MPC 2000 XL. I just utilized, I had the 8 output boards because you had to get that expansion board for your MPC 2000 or XL. And so I had the 8 output board, and then I would just take 1/4-inch cables and just go right directly to the audio interface. And at that time I was using Pro Tools, and you can record that way. Another way you can do it is when you open up your software, you open up a virtual instrument track, and then you can just drop it in there as a virtual instrument. To be honest with you, I've only done it once. It seemed kind of redundant. Like, it didn't make sense for me to do it that way. It just didn't seem to make sense to me that way, because they're both essentially doing the same thing. You're recording either into the MPC or you're recording into the software. If you're trying to get the MPC X into your software, it just seems kind of redundant to have both, as a virtual instrument. But, to each his own. And so that might work for you as a workflow. If we're talking about workflow, for me, that doesn't really make much sense. I'd rather work in the MPC X alone or work in the software alone. But to open it up as a virtual instrument doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. But you can just open it up as a virtual instrument, and you'll have the interface of the MPC X right there with your software. And if that is a workflow that works good for you, then I would suggest going that route. Another thing you can do is, say you create a song, you got it all laid out, intros, verses, choruses, and so on. And then you can import that whole thing into the software, and then you can go ahead and break it apart. Now, remember though, if you do it that way, you'll have everything on one track. You're not going to be able to separate drums, pianos, keyboards. You'll have just one file, one song track, one file track. Another thing you can do is you can explode the tracks in the MPC X. It's a really cool feature. Let's go look at that in the software, and we can talk about it a little more. All right, so real quick, we have a song here with 7 tracks, 1 through 7, as you can see right here. And we're going to explode this track out. So what that means, these tracks out. So what that means is that the only track that's actually wave is track 1. It's a drum track run right over here, okay? Track 2 through 7 are plugins, okay? So when we explode this, they're going to actually be converted to waveform. And what you do is you come over to File, Export, as audio mixdown, all right? And then you go to Explode Tracks. You can do it as WAV, AIFF, or MP3, bitrate, and sample rate. You can, bit depth, excuse me, and sample rate you can choose right here. And then you'll hit Export. When you export that, let me cancel it because I already did it for you so you can see. you're going to have, I export it to the desktop just so I can find it real easy. Of course, you want to keep it in order, so you might want to create a folder and then do it that way. And then here are all the tracks that I just exported. They're all wave tracks now. As you can see, this is 14 seconds long. So here we are in Studio One, and as you can see, all those tracks that we exported out of the MPC X, I just brought them in here. All I did was take it and I went into my desktop, grabbed them all, and threw them right in here. In Studio One, it'll create all these audio tracks. And as you can see, the wave files are right here. You know, you can see sound, wave sounds. It's playing. I'm not sure why I'm not getting any sound, but it doesn't matter at this point. The point I'm trying to make is that that's another way that you can actually take your song from the MPC X, explode those tracks out, and bring them in here, and then you can start putting processing through it. Then you can start processing effects through it and arranging it any way you want. And so that's another way. All right, guys, I hope you got something out of that. If you didn't understand any certain parts about it, just drop it down in the comments below. I'll try to address it, because in every situation, starting from the outputs on the MPC all the way to exploding the tracks, and every of those scenarios, there's more in depth that we can go and talk about how to do that. For example, when you are connecting the 8 outputs to your interface, there are some things that you're going to have to change in the MIDI setup, so that if you push play record on your Pro Tools or your Studio One, then the MPC will start up right away, which all that takes is some MIDI cables in and out, and it's real simple, but it's just another subject that we can talk about. So if you have any questions about any of those things that we discussed, or if you have a different way that you bring in your MPC X into your DAW, your sounds from your MPC X to your DAW, drop it down below. Help somebody out. This was just done just to help somebody, answer a question of somebody that just needed some help. So if you have any input, any suggestions, anything that you want to recommend, drop it down below. Let Ron know, and help everybody out. So I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell notification. Thank you so much, guys, for taking me up to where I'm at right now with my subs. I appreciate it. And share this, pass this forward, and thank you for the love, man. Till next time, I'm out.